Watch this.
The Middle East, the part of Asia that Europeans see as the middle.
Guys, we're welcoming Johnny Harris back into our apartments and into our homes. We're going to do this react, and then we're going to get to LSF, and then we're going to get to Okay Buddy. Okay, let's go. Let's go, boys. This was made safe by not your average African. So
Of what they see as the East. Sort of arbitrary. Whatever. We call it the Middle East. This part of the world is literally where civilization started. Right here in modern-day Iraq. And over the years, the borders here have been redrawn many times as empires have ebbed and flowed through this region. By the way, I didn't make this time-lapse. A very talented YouTuber did, and he deserves a medal for it. Or perhaps just a new page.
sorry. I just want to keep it there for everybody to just remember, okay? Just fucking no, bitch. Okay?
And he deserves a medal for it. Or perhaps just a new patron. Thanks, man. Anyway, the most recent carving up of this region happened by European powers. The French, the British, the Russians. I mean, are we surprised? No. Like, of course it was the British. Of course it was the French. Of course it was Europeans. Of course. The lines they drew didn't really take into account language or ethnicity or regional identity. They just sort of sliced it all up amongst themselves and said, these are our new regions of power in the Middle East. Eventually those European powers left, but the lines they drew stuck around and became the skeleton for what the borders look like today. And this is where our story starts. In the 1930s, here in the modern Middle East. At this point, across the ocean, there was this growing superpower that had spent the last century moving west, taking over this whole continent and beyond deep into the Pacific Ocean. We've talked about that a bit. But things were changing. The world had just fought a brutal world war that was fought with new weapons that were powered by this new important substance, oil. Germany lost that war, in part because they didn't have access to enough oil to keep up with this new style of warfare that relied a lot more on machines. The young superpower realized that access to this stuff would determine who would be powerful and who would not. So they stopped looking west for a moment and turned east, with hopes of finding the fuel they needed to build their power. The US presence in the Middle East started with one little dot, right here. But soon that dot would expand into a sprawling network.
I'm planning on renewing my subscription to your lovely Twitch channel, but here are some issues that are holding me off. If you can guarantee me immunity from being banned, I can resubscribe in good conscience. You have 3 days to provide a response. 8 months? You've been here for 8 months, and that's the joke you got for me? Here's 5 minutes for that, because it's like obviously playful, but I just want to give you a taste of what you should be expecting from me in the future if you do continue to resubscribe. Now, if you were a gray name, a non-sub, and you had a take like that, and you were a little bit more agitational, I probably would have given you a week. So that's the kind of expectation that you should have, which is just I am a lot more understanding because I judge how long you've been in my community.
Work of alliances, covert attacks, flows of weapons, money, and the building of innumerable bases, and eventually turning into...
Okay, even as a joke, I kind of feel like he was just making a funny joke. I feel like 5 minutes was too much. I should have given him a second. What was his name? Can one of the mods unban him? I'm sorry. I feel terrible.
Pervert.
Full-on ground wars. This is how the US stole the Middle East.
Ready and willing to employ all means necessary.
Okay, so it's the 1930s, and the US doesn't have a significant presence in the Middle East at this point. But that's about to change, because there's a company based in California that wants to explore this vast desert for oil.
11,000 miles from San Francisco, there lies a primeval desert,
a mass of drifting sand and sun-baked earth 1/3 the size of the United States.
This was sort of a risky decision for the California company because, first off, they had no idea if there was actually any oil here.
They knew it would mean sinking into the desert the money of thousands of stockholders in a project that might well end in complete loss.
And second off, this desert was a part of a very hardcore religious kingdom.
Excuse me, sir. This desert has holy land in it. That's where Mecca is, bitch. That's where the Kaaba is. How dare you?
The fact that Mecca is the source and the shrine of Islam gives Saudi Arabia a
Hey, Johnny Harris, have you thought about inviting Allah into your home? Huh? Yeah, guess what?
central place in the
Maybe you
Islamic
should do that.
and therefore the Arab world.
That was home to the holiest sites in Islam, run by a dogmatic royal family that did not like outsiders, especially non-believing Westerners. But even still, the
Wait, what? Were they hitting him
did
in the
not like
head?
outsiders, especially non-believing
What the fuck?
Westerners. But
What?
even still, the king of the Desert Kingdom eventually gives the California company permission to explore almost 1 million square kilometers of this desert looking for oil. And after a few years, the bet paid off. And on March 3rd, 1938, in this little patch of coastal desert, they struck gold. Well, actually they struck oil, but it might as well have been gold. So throughout the 30s and 40s, American oil executives, workers, and their families started flocking to the Middle East, establishing the first significant American presence in the region. They set up little cities around the oil operation that were little slices of America, full of the deepest sinful behavior, like allowing women to drive and the consumption of alcohol.
Here is another American colony, complete with air-conditioned houses, 2 hospitals, and an outdoor movie theater.
This is the sort of stuff that is very off limits in Saudi Arabia. It's literally illegal at this point. So you have a lot of Saudis who are not happy about their government letting the Americans in.
Ottoman were racist, by the way, just saying. Fuck off, dude. We're not even talking about the Ottoman Empire. And he's like, dude, I fucking got him. What is your brain on fucking literally like 3-minute delay?
To behave however they want. But the oil kept flowing, and soon the US government goes to the royal family and says, listen, the oil is flowing better than ever, this is awesome, how about we build a little military base attached to our
Just a
little
little
oil
baby
city
military base,
so that we
just
can,
a little bit.
you know, protect you and protect us and protect the oil and stuff. And the Saudis are like, okay, having the great Satan come to our country for oil is one thing, but letting them set up a full-on military base on our soil, and especially when like everyone in our country is not happy with their presence in the first place. But
The Hittite were ableist, and the Sumerians were really disrespectful to POC. They constantly were doing microaggressions. I fucking can't believe it.
said the royal family, all of this oil is really valuable and it's really nice and we're getting super rich, so they're like, yeah, sure, set up the base. But there was one stipulation that the Saudis had for the Americans. You are not allowed to literally plant a flag, no flagpoles of the United States. You cannot put your flag anywhere on this base. Instead, you can put a little plaque on the side of the building so that your flag is not literally on our soil. And that was the deal. And that's exactly what happened. The
Cox!
US sets up its first military operation in the Middle East in the form of a landing strip that is right next to this oil field. Okay, so all of this infrastructure that the Americans were building required someone to build it. They needed a construction company. And there was one construction company that the Americans really liked that helped them build their oil city and their base. This company was founded and run by a guy named Mohammed. Now listen, do you think I'm really giving you the backstory on the construction company that built the airbase in the oil city just because that's interesting and I like to talk about construction? No, this is actually very relevant to the story, and you will see why very soon. So the Americans and the Saudis are having this forbidden oil bromance, and it's going really well, and they are just, the oil is flowing, everyone's getting rich. And meanwhile, the rest of the Middle East is looking at Saudi Arabia and they're like, dude, WTF, why are you like in bed with America? And like, why are you letting them set up a landing strip in your country? And the Saudi royals are like,
Yeah, I wonder why they were saying that. If they only had some fucking foresight, dude. If they were only right about not wanting American interference in the region.
Oh, you're such a big man, Hasan.
do you realize how rich we're getting right now? Like, if you were in our position, you would do the same thing, Egypt. Okay, so it's the 1950s, and let's get back to Mohammed, the construction guy. His company, by this point, is thriving. The American presence in oil land is just exploding, and he is building all of the stuff for it. And so this guy has a giant business. And he starts to have children. Well, in fact, he had a lot of children, like 54 children, because he had 22 wives, because that is a thing in Saudi Arabia to this day. Anyway, the point is, one of Mohammed's sons is named Osama. I told you this was going to be relevant. Okay, a reminder that Saudi Arabia is not the entire Middle East. So, I'm going to leave the Osama bin Laden cliffhanger for a moment to tell you what else was going on in the Middle East at this time. Remember that it was the hunt for oil that brought the US to Saudi Arabia originally. But now, in the 50s and 60s, there was a new reason for the US to think about the Middle East. And that reason is because there's another big superpower.
Yeah, by the way, that reason was also oil, but this time in Iran.
His name is
Like,
Hasan.
literally, not just Soviet Union, but also oil again, but this time in a different country.
That has nuclear weapons, called the Soviet Union, who is coming into the region and saying to everyone, come join Team Communism. And the US is like, hold my beer. So in addition to oil, the US is now involved in trying to not let the Soviet Union have any power in this region. Over in Iran, there was a democratically elected leader that the US didn't like. They thought
Just the literal meme of like, I consent, and then the CIA going, I do not consent. That's this.
region.
What you're
Over
about to
in
see.
Iran, there was a democratically elected leader that the US didn't like. They thought he was maybe a little too friendly with the Soviet Union. So they worked together with the British to literally overthrow the government of Iran so that they could install a dictatorial leader that was more friendly to the United States. Little side note here.
Bro, I promise, bro, you need Mossadegh bad, bro. You need Shah, bro. Bro, I am Iranian, bro. I'm literally in Iran right now. I am not in West LA, bro. I am not typing this from my home in West LA, bro. I'm in Iran right now. Please, dude, do nuclear first strike, bro. We are in Iran. We love it. We love America, bro. We love Shah. And we think it's very good. We hate Iran current leadership. It's totally fine to nuclear bomb, bro. My friend, I promise, bro. Iranians, we love to be nuclear bomb, bro. Glass us, bro.
The airport that I fly out of here in DC is named after the guy who like gave the go-ahead for this coup in Iran, John Foster Dulles. So I'm reminded of the whole Iran thing every time I fly. So the US has its oil thing. It's now involved in trying to prop up a dictator in Iran. There's another big thing happening that brings the US into the region, which is that the newly declared state of Israel is starting to piss off its neighbors and starting to look to the US for support. And the US gladly offers it, seeing Israel as a friendly nation in the region that could be a big proponent of US interests. So the US starts to fund Israel with tons of money and fighter jets and all of these things to help them fight their wars against their Arab neighbors. There was a debate happening in the United States on whether or not they should actually do all of this to support Israel so intensely, because they knew if they did, they were gonna piss off all of the neighbors in the Middle East. And all of the neighbors are the ones who had the oil. In the end, the US did decide to support Israel. And with that came a major backlash from all of these oil-producing countries in the neighborhood.
There's a crisis of such proportion that we probably haven't even begun to grasp it yet as far as the country is concerned.
Scenes like this are becoming all too common on both sides of the Atlantic. But for America, they are more ominous. They tell the Arabs that their oil weapon is wounding America, the country that supports and supplies their enemy Israel.
Eventually, this backlash against supporting Israel kind of calmed down. There was some peace talks. And anyway, let's get back to Mohammed, the construction guy, and his son Osama, because this is where it really starts to heat up.
And it is this world of religious authority and deeply rooted traditions that is now being challenged by the wealth of oil and the Western invasion it has brought.
So it's now the 70s, and Mohammed bin Laden, the construction guy, is now insanely rich. His construction company is giant, his 54 children are also rich, and his son Osama is growing up and is in his 20s and is looking around at all of this stuff happening in Iran and in Israel and is starting to feel really uncomfortable with the notion of his family being so supportive of American presence in the Middle East and his government, this religious kingdom, home of Mecca and Medina, being so okay with the US so embedded in the Middle East at this point. These are ancient, holy lands. Why is my government and my family supporting this great Satan superpower coming in and becoming so involved in the Middle East? So bin Laden sets out on a lifelong quest to fight back against these superpowers, not just the US, but also the Soviet Union, invading the Middle East. He heads to Afghanistan, where the Soviet Union is invading Afghanistan, trying to take it over. Bin Laden wants to fight back. By the way, the same year in Iran, that dictator that the US put in gets overthrown in a giant religious revolution that gets rid of the old dictator that the US liked and puts in a religious government.
Because that's what the fuck happens in the Middle East whenever American involvement, American interference galvanizes the base. And throughout that destabilization, it's not ever it's not a socialist leader that comes into power again. It's not a democratic socialist. It's a motherfucking theocratic psychopath that seizes all the power and is the one who can use the power vacuum to his own needs, to his own benefit, and say, I will hate America the most. Okay? So congratulations, America. You played yourselves, is what I would say if America actually was an honest actor and genuinely a force of good in this world. But it's not. This also plays to America's benefit because now he has America will have a permanent enemy. America will now have a permanent enemy in Iran that they can constantly use to justify additional boots on the ground military warfare and American destabilization in the region. They can sell more weapons this way. It's great. Fucking awesome. Now we can get to throw a religious leader and put the dictator in a cycle and repeat. Yeah. Oh, if that were true after we killed Saddam and invaded Afghanistan. Good one, dude. At first I thought you were being sarcastic. If that were true after we killed Saddam and invaded Afghanistan, some kind of hyper-traditionalist religious group would have emerged to gain power in the Middle East. Yeah. Yeah. And of course that historically did not happen, so... Wait a minute. Wait, what? Oh shit, that literally happened twice, both in Iraq and Afghanistan, and almost happened in Syria too. That's crazy. If only they weren't Shia, I would have sucked the dick halal style. This message approved by the Wahhabi Brotherhood of Saudi Arabia. Okay, dude. No, he was joking. He was talking about the Taliban, rise of ISIS. He was being sarcastic.
Headed by this guy, Ayatollah Khomeini. This new government.
Also, the other part of this equation, of course, is that it's like a Ouroboros, where religious extremism is being funneled in by America in a lot of circumstances as their greatest ally in the region, as we've already found out in the first 12 minutes of this video, is Saudi Arabia. So their Wahhabi fucking sheiks are literally directly, in certain circumstances, like in Iraq, for example, directly funneled into the country. Okay? So that extremism is not even, in a lot of circumstances, coming from below, but that extremism is being imported by American allies in the region. So there's that too.
Takes a bunch of Americans hostage.
For example, Turkey. Wait, what? Wahhabi extremism in Turkey? What the fuck are you talking about? America has, and the British have supplied funds and obviously helped Wahhabi extremism all around the world, but they've also built a counter to that as well in their own way, which is Fethullah Gulen, a more peaceful, more tolerant in the eyes of the American, a more controllable form of Islamic madrasas that are spread all around the world, and mostly in like African nations, for example, and even in America. And even that is not good. Even that is super fucking extremist, and I hate them. I hate him. He's Turkish. But to say that Turkey has its own brand of Wahhabi extremism is completely false. Okay, I'll go back 10 seconds. Shut the fuck up.
The old dictator that the U.S. liked, and puts in a religious government headed by this guy, Ayatollah Khomeini. This new government takes a bunch of Americans hostage and starts off hating the United States. And I mean, can you blame them? If someone overthrew the person I elected, I would be pretty pissed too. So anyway, back to bin Laden. He arrives to Afghanistan with a few things. Number one, a bunch of money. Remember, his family's like super rich. He also comes with...
I love this. I love that. Wait, hold on. Where's the guy? Where's the guy? This guy just said the U.S. funding Wahhabi ultra-conservatives sounds so counterintuitive to their own interests. While the video was literally saying this.
If someone overthrew the person I elected, I would be pretty pissed too. So anyway, back to bin Laden. He arrives to Afghanistan with a few things. Number one, a bunch of money. Remember, his family's like super rich. He also comes with construction infrastructure because he's like a construction guy. Like, his family knows construction and infrastructure building. But most importantly, he comes with an obsessive dedication to fighting back against any superpower that is invading the Middle East. So Osama joins in with all of these rebel fighters who are fighting back against the Soviet Union.
Who was funding these guys? Who was these guys? Who are these guys again? It's just, I don't have any sort of like, I never had like a memorable quote that pertained to America funding the Mujahideen or anything like that, so I just can't remember. Were they considered brave freedom fighters at the time? Fighting against the disgusting scourge of the Soviet Union? Is that a thing that happened? Wait, no. No. Is this video literally everything I said that went on Fox News, but just describing the background as in simple terms that liberals can even fucking comprehend, and even conservatives? No. What?
And they fight a long...
Come on, bro. You're crazy, bro. It's justified to give arms to the Mujahideen and Osama bin Laden to fight back against the USSR, bro. They're a regional power, bro. Come on, bro. I promise. Please, bro. Please understand, dude. This time it's different, bro. This time it will be different, bro. We have to do it, bro. Come on, bro. That's why we're still giving money to the Saudis, bro. That's why we're still giving weapons to the Saudis that are going to the Al-Qaeda right now, bro, because they have to do genocide in Yemen, bro. You don't understand. International politics is so much more complicated, you simple-brained, leftist, socialist, fascist, genocide denier. My genocide is okay. Ah! I am a big-brained Reddit liberal. Sorry.
Brutal war By the way, the US was secretly loving this, loving that the Soviet Union was getting like beat back by these like rebel fighters. So they end up sending loads of weapons and money and support to these fighters, something that will come back to bite them a few decades later. Eventually, Osama and the Afghan fighters beat back the Soviet Union. It was 10 brutal years of war, and by the end, these—
No way, bro! The brave mujahideen that we gave arms to and training to, they— what? No, you're crazy. That would never happen, dude. What?
These fighters were battle-hardened. Osama was now completely dedicated to his cause of fighting back against superpowers who were coming into the Middle East. So he returns back to Saudi Arabia, where he starts raising money and awareness for his new group that he started while he was in Afghanistan. It's called Al-Qaeda. And the mission of the group is to protect Islam through violently striking back against big superpowers coming into the Middle East. And Saudi Arabia's like, Osama, like, do you have to do this, dude? Do you realize how rich we're getting? Like,
just kidding! They fucking said that while simultaneously also pumping him full of fucking weapons and also, like, literally funded the members of the royal family funded the attacks. Okay.
Saudi princes are living on yachts in the south of France and like flying in their private jets, and they're like, dude, chill. Like, it's fine, we get it, we don't like the United States, but like, can you like maybe chill? Our partnership with the United States is actually turning out to be really great, and I know, yeah, they're really into Israel and they're really bad and everything, but like, they buy our oil and they give us weapons and we're like doing just fine over here. Osama doesn't chill, and the Saudi government eventually takes away his passport, not letting him leave.
Nice conspiracy theorism. Next, you'll say that the U.S. funded fascists in South America and sold crack in black neighborhoods. Shut up, dude. There's no fucking way that would happen, dude. There's no way. There's like no way that we would fund Latin American death squads, like fascist Latin American death squads. Like, there's just... You're crazy, dude. You're a crazy guy. It sounds like... Where's your tinfoil hat, dude? What? I didn't learn about this in school, so it must not be real.
And told him to hush up with all the anti-American holy war talk. So Osama finds
the guy that facilitated that would never in a million years get pardoned by the president and then end up, I don't know, being put in charge of one of the most significant, one of the most influential lobbies in the fucking country, right? I mean, that would literally never happen, right? Or maybe the guy that participated in the cover-up wouldn't currently be sitting in the Trump administration years later as the czar of dealing with America's foreign enemies like Venezuela, which the Democratic parties, like senators, have openly admitted we failed on doing a coup d'etat, on just a soft coup d'etat, just a light one, in public. And both parties have the same foreign policy interests. That would never happen. That's a conspiracy. That's crazy, dude. You're a fucking crazy person. Except that did happen. Oliver North is the person I'm referencing about the NRA, and Elliot Abrams is the other person that's the czar to Venezuela.
Another plan to maybe win back the heart of the royals. Saudi Arabia has a next door neighbor named Iraq, who was run by Saddam Hussein, who Osama sees as a really bad Muslim, totally secular and brutal, and he's just like not a good guy. Saddam is also cashing in on the oil boom. He's building big palaces and statues of himself all over the country. Oh yeah, and he also used the oil money to build a giant army, like the fourth biggest in the world. With this massive army, Saddam decided that he could maybe multiply his oil reserves if he popped down to invade this little tiny country of Kuwait, where there's also loads of oil. This sort of freaked the Saudis out. If Saddam, with his giant army, could grab Kuwait, what would stop him from marching right across this desert into Saudi Arabia? So there's this moment that it's like the moment of infamy of this whole thing, where Osama goes to the Saudis and he says,
"I volunteer as tribute."
He doesn't actually say, I volunteer in tribute. That was Hunger Games.
I believe we have a volunteer.
But he effectively says, I have me and my battle-hardened men who can go in and fight against Saddam and defend the kingdom. And the Saudis are like, no, we're not gonna like let this ragtag group of like rebel fighters fight off the 4th largest army in the world. And Osama's like, well, we beat the...
What I'm about to say is going to frustrate a lot of people in the Middle East, but like, fuck it, I'm going to say it anyway. The Iraqi army is shit. Like, it was literal dog shit. I'm sorry. Okay? There, I said it.
Soviets, like, they're a big army with nuclear weapons and everything. And the Saudis are like, yeah, because you hid in the hills in caves in Afghanistan. Prince Sultan literally told bin Laden verbatim.
Like these guerrilla forces that in some instances have weapons directly funneled to them by Americans and also training from American military officials are better at fighting in that region with guerrilla warfare tactics than the entire military. Like all of these. So unironically, Osama might have had a better might have actually been able to stop the Iraqi forces and force them to retreat before American involvement. Not even kidding. Orada Fethullah gibi adam vardı, bütün askeriye ele geçirmişti, sen bilmiyorsun, adamlar kurşun atmadı. They lost against an unprepared Iranian army. Okay, the Iranian army is the opposite of the Iraqi army. The Iranian army has a fucking army and troops and like actual training. That is very different than the Iraqi army or whatever the fuck would be considered the Afghanistan army. Like, my man said support the troops. Wow, base, dude. On both sides.
Quote, there are no caves in Kuwait. And then he asks them, what will you do when he lobs the missiles at you with chemical and biological weapons? Osama's response,
I love the system.
we will
I can
fight
now
them
remove
with
the
our
triple
faith.
And
the Saudis are like, awkward? Sorry, dude.
How was Osama really this much of a fucking zealot while simultaneously cranking it to hentai and shit? Like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude, man? He was a faith build. Meanwhile, he was literally just like playing Nintendo games and shit. Man, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Yeah, he's like literally a fucking weeb, dude. You guys saw some of the shit that they uncovered from his library. Hentai powered him up, dude. Yeah. That's why weebs are fucking degenerate, dude. The weeb to 9/11 pipeline. Okay, let's keep going.
Dude, like... Instead, the king met with somebody else.
Okay, I gotta stop making
that
jokes.
he thought would make a much better fit than bin Laden and his faith fighters. Dick Cheney had flown to Saudi Arabia the day after Saddam had invaded Kuwait.
America,
At this point, the
Come
bromance
save
between
us,
the
bro!
US and Saudi Arabia had cooled a little bit, as Saudi had gotten more and more flack for being in bed with the US. But even despite this, he told Cheney to come with as much force and as quickly as he could. And that is exactly what Dick Cheney did.
These motherfuckers literally welcomed America into their homes, dude. That's what happened. That's why so many fucking regional powers and people that live in the region just hate Saudi Arabia for this. This is it. Because they welcomed America into their homes, and America was like, oh, if I'm welcome into this home, well, y'all are all fucking brown. Might as well act like I'm welcome to everybody's homes.
Did.
Ready and willing to employ all means necessary.
The US went insane here. They recruited 37 other countries, and then they sent more firepower in terms of ships and bombers and troops and all this stuff than you and I could ever imagine. It was insanity. And they totally crushed Saddam. Within a few weeks, they had pushed Saddam back and
also did some war crimes on retreating forces like the Highway of Hell, where we dropped a fuckload of bombs on literal retreating forces, including refugees, which was a war crime at the time that we never answered for, and we never will. As a matter of fact, George W. Bush said we will never answer for things like that. Don't be fucking crazy. HW. And not only that, but this is why I was saying, like, they got fucking rolled, dude. Absolutely rolled. I think, what is it, like 150 casualties on the American side? Like, that's why I always laugh about, like, people who wear, like, Operation Desert Storm hats. Like, yeah, I'm a fucking Operation Desert Storm veteran, baby. It's like, what did you do? You just went into the desert and jerked off a little bit with the homies. Like, what the fuck were you? Anyway, that's, I mean, hold on. What the fuck do you mean? What did I do in the desert, brother? We was out there protecting oil fields. It's a goddamn American asset. You wouldn't understand it. I have an Operation Desert Storm hat, for those of you who didn't know. That boy right there, he's stealing valor. It's only all right when God-fearing, Christianity-loving American Republicans steal valor, then in which case it's all right.
His name is Hasan.
Let's keep going.
Completely won over the hearts of the royals. The bromance is back in business. So now you have these Saudis that are beaming at the Americans for helping them fight off Saddam. And you have a bunch of bases that the US set up to mount this attack. Way more than before. The US came with all of this firepower and manpower and bases and artillery, and then they just sort of never left. Something that really pissed off a lot of...
Bro, you don't understand it. Listen. We brought our tanks there, brother. We have to keep them there. What else are we gonna do? Fucking destroy them? Oh, wait, we literally do that. We melt them so that the enemy can't use them because it's too expensive to bring them back home. Also, the technology is now outdated because our military-industrial complex is constantly growing. We can't sell the tanks to our enemies. Well, we do sometimes do that, but hey, that's fine. That's for a different day. But what are we gonna do? We have to keep them here. We'll save you. We'll save you from big bad Saddam if he ever wants to do it again.
Of Saudis who were very uncomfortable with U.S. presence to begin with. But
my uncle, a complete child, has pretty bad PTSD from the Gulf War. He said it was from accidentally squishing a dude with a tank while he was driving. Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
The guy who was most pissed off than anyone in the Middle East at this point? Osama bin Laden, who had not only been rejected by his own country, but then who got chosen instead? But the great Satan, the United States, a power that Osama had built his entire life fighting against. So Osama bin Laden starts to double down on his original mission. He leaves Saudi Arabia and begins coordinating very precise attacks that could really only be coordinated by a guy who was good at technical details of a construction company and who had lots of money to fund it. He carries out attacks against the United States all around the world. And by the late 90s, he starts planning the attack that would change our world forever.
We're setting up an ad hoc.
So this is just the first half of the story. What happens next is something that we're all kind of familiar with. In fact, I think we're all still kind of processing the US presence in the Middle East today and how that all went down. But it deserves taking a look at, and I'm not going to do that right now. I want to make a separate video for Iraq and Afghanistan and Israel and Iran and dive into each of these cases to show how the US presence in the Middle East is not just about oil. In fact, oil is becoming less and less of a vital aspect of the US presence as we have alternative sources of this.
What the fuck are you trying to say? goddamn hipster liptard talking about Osama being a good guy in the story? What the fuck? He made it seem like Osama had a good cause. Are you fucking kidding me? We were right to be there, brother. We're absolutely right to be there. It's our goddamn right. We were saving our friends, the Saudis.
I got me a ice cream Sammy to enjoy the stream too.
The U.S. is literally stealing Syrian oil right now with PMCs. The fuck he's talking about, not oil. No, you don't understand, bro. Bro, you don't understand, bro. That's necessary, bro. Come on, how else are we going to fund these endeavors, dude? Come on, bro.
This sort of energy. Instead, our presence in the Middle East has become a fixture of how we think about foreign policy and how we think about the map. It's become so embedded in our military doctrine and in our foreign policy doctrine that it's proving to be really hard to think about how we could ever get out. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Man, the Middle East.
Yeah, of course I read viewers at 14K. I'm a psycho. This was a pretty good video. I mean, it glanced over some shit, but like it's an incredibly complicated. It's an incredibly complicated story to tell, and he did a really good job doing it in 20 minutes.